So good morning. I'm Doug Smith from Kentucky Valley Educational Cooperative. I'm a behavior consultant. We're going to take a brief dive into what social emotional learning is. We're going to look at the competencies that our students need in order to be able to uh, develop and improve their social emotional skills. I'm Doug Smith and welcome. We're going to be looking at social emotional learning, looking at competencies for student success. And the information that I've gathered comes from Castle. Castle, if you're not familiar with it, is a collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. So today we're going to be looking at a definition of SEL. We're going to look at the 5 competencies that Castle recommends. Those will be, and we'll dive into each of these a little bit. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making, and we'll briefly look at some takeaways. So first thing is social emotional learning. Let's look at the definition of social emotional learning. It says SEL is the process through which all young people and adults acquire and apply the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to develop healthy identities, manage emotions, and achieve personal and collective goals, feel and show empathy for others, establish and maintain supportive relationships, and make responsible and caring decisions. If we were describing SEL to someone that may know the letters and may have heard social emotional learning, how could we put this into a working definition that anyone could easily understand?
Well, I think it would be working on the needs of the students' needs, as well as coworkers, and getting on the level and building relationships so that they're comfortable to come and talk to you when there's a problem and even when there's not.
When I think of SEL, I think of those inward behaviors or those things that we think through and talk about to ourselves and to help us manage our emotions and help us to manage those healthy relationships that we have with folks. So I think that social emotional involves how students know and manage themselves, understand the perspectives of others, and relate effectively with those, and then how they make sound choices about personal and social decisions. And one of the difficult things for a lot of our students is taking into account someone else's feelings, someone else's emotions, and how our behaviors impact them and how they respond to us. So Castle, like I said, is the collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. And they have 5 core competencies that can be applied both in the classroom, at the home level, and in the communities. And those 5 competencies are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. So first we'll take a look at self-awareness. Self-awareness, competency in self-awareness involves understanding one's emotions, personal goals, and values. This includes accurately assessing one's strengths and limitations, having a positive mindset, and possessing a well-grounded sense of self-efficacy and optimism. Also, high levels of self-awareness require the ability to recognize how thoughts, feelings, and actions are interconnected. So what this may look like is identifying personal, cultural, and linguistic, easy for me to say, right? Linguistic assets, identifying one's own emotions, linking feelings, values, and thoughts to behaviors, and linking those also within themselves, and examining prejudice and biases. And also, self awareness means you having a growth mindset. So, what self awareness, what the student will be able to do, these are the things that if we work with our students on developing the competency and self awareness, they should be able to correctly label their own emotions, recognize that emotions are temporary and can and will change, recognize emotions can affect their behaviors, recognize behavior can affect emotions, and recognize that emotions have physical effects. Being able to label our emotions. You know, sometimes our kids have difficulty and telling you what's going on with them because they don't have that vocabulary to express or to let you know what's going on. And a couple of things that we found to be beneficial is you can find the emojis on, you know, how I'm feeling today. And they got the little emojis that come up and you can put those on postcards or make a little, just little, some ways that let the students know that they can show you, you know, I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm happy, whatever, and show those to you. I've seen someone put some on the popsicle sticks and write what emotion it was that they were feeling on that popsicle stick. And then it had a visual representation of that emotion. And then they could share that, the kids could share that with their teachers or with their staff to let them know that that is the emotion that they were feeling, so that there's no question what they were going through. So some things that the teacher can do, of course, as I was talking about, is the vocabulary instruction. We have to develop this vocabulary with our young kids, our older kids as well, so that they have the ability or a way to share how they're feeling, what emotions that they're going through. Class instruction to identify feelings in different situations. And then literature selections, a lot of times, books, social stories. These are just some examples. One is lead a class activity that asks students how they are feeling in different situations. And you could probably start with, so how would you feel if you got all A's on your report card? Some kids that may not do anything at all. They may not even, respond or react to that. But some kids, that intrinsic motivation of making all A's would make them feel really good about themselves. Or you could ask, how would you feel if your favorite relative took you out for ice cream? No, you could ask, how would you feel if your pet was very sick? And just look at leading those discussions with those kids and help them to understand that those emotions and feelings are okay.
Probably serve a younger age group than you all, but I'd like the greetings that teachers do whenever children come, and they can greet them in different ways with a high five or a hug or another form. Some do a dance or a handshake, and then lots of times we will allow the children to pick how they're feeling today, when they first come in the room, so that they can move like their face on a clip to how do I feel today, just kind of identifying where they're at.
And another thing that I think teachers and staff members can do, they can talk about their own feelings and thoughts and how their body feels and how you respond and how you react to different situations and scenarios. Look at the physical and emotional cues that tell us how we're feeling in different situations. For example, I tell you, you're feeling really excited right now. I can tell by the big smile on your face. I understand. I see that you may be feeling upset or maybe feeling frustrated because of, you're clenching your fist or you're fidgeting or whatever. And being able to acknowledge what the students are doing and time their body and responses and physical reactions to maybe the word that describes that emotion or that feeling. So, and then, like I said, always talk about your own feelings and how you know that you're feeling that way and how those feelings influenced your behavior, because a lot of times don't really recognize what we're feeling, but we recognize that we're responding in different ways, and just letting the kids understand that those feelings, like I said, are legitimate, and this is what your body may be doing as a response to that. Still under self-awareness, we're looking at building strengths, interests, and self-efficacy. And so students be able to identify interests and strengths and build upon those, be aware of their own positive qualities and values, demonstrate interest in trying new things, and express confidence that they can handle both daily tasks and challenges effectively and maintain optimism about their future. So I think sometimes with our students that have the behavior difficulties, they may be confident, but it may not be confident in doing the right thing. And our kids a lot of times don't see those positive qualities and positive values. And so when you're working with our students, you want to make sure that you point out those strengths that they have and you point out those positives that they are exhibiting, so that you can build upon those. So some of the strategies that you could use is have your students identify the strengths that they have and weaknesses that they would like to work on, and share that area, your weakness, with those students to let them know that, folks have things that they need to work on and want to improve upon. Have students complete a project to identify interests and strengths. Class roles and responsibilities. Now, class roles and responsibilities should, of course, be age appropriate So what are some things that we could do to help with our interests and strengths of our kids? I think one thing that you may want to think about is when our students are showing a strength that they have, uh, make sure you provide them with authentic feedback, real feedback, and acknowledge what they're doing and acknowledge that strength and play on that strength and help encourage them to build their strengths. Also, tell the kids why you feel optimistic about their future, why you feel happy or excited that they're going to do great things in the future. Self-management is the ability to manage one's emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. Self-management looks at, of course, managing one's emotions. Looks like identifying and using stress management strategies, exhibiting self-discipline, self-motivation, setting personal and collective goals, and then using planning and organizational skills. So what the students should be able to do is monitor and regulate their emotions effectively, use awareness of emotions as a guide to decision making, be able to motivate themselves, and cope well with stress and anxiety. Not only do the students need to be able to do that, but we as the mentors or educators need to be able to do that as well. And then express emotions appropriately. So some teaching strategies that you can use is use the think method. You know, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Or is it kind? Then apply those to your class norms and expectations. Now, again, with the norms and expectations, you want to make sure that you teach your students what you expect of them, what their behavior should look like. And I like, instead of calling them rules, I like to call them expectations. So what are those? We're going to teach those, we're going to model those, we're going to practice those, and we're going to review those and teach again as often as possible. So those are some ideas up there on the screen. So I think one of the things that we could do is teach effective self-management techniques, such as belly breathing. Some other things is yoga, self-talk, and then teaching relaxation skills. Mindfulness is one of those things that we could use to help our students to kind of ground themselves or to refocus. Have students brainstorm ways to motivate themselves. Practice self-management techniques as a regular part of the day. You could start the day off with a deep breathing activity. All right. So what are some other things that we could do as far as helping our students with self-management? We do a self-monitoring checklist is a social skills activity that you could use, but you could also use that as far as a way to have our students to kind of check their behaviors and their emotions. And so also looking at under self-management, we're also looking at personal and educational goals. And these are the things that the student be able to do. Develop a plan and action steps with reasonable time frames for completion. Make sure that they're using motivational strategies. And like I said, celebrate those successes. We got to celebrate those small steps because if not, all they see is those barriers or those difficulties, and then they may give up. And we don't want our students to give up. So to celebrate those small steps. So some strategies that we could use, talk about how you motivate yourself when you need to. We all have to have some way to motivate ourselves, and we need to talk to our kids about that. Model and talk about your own goals with your students. Let them understand that we all have different goals that we want to achieve. And then work with the class, establish and complete class projects. And, that way you could help them develop that timeline. You could help them set those short-term goals to meet the end product, which would be something to improve our classroom or to assist in something in the school setting. Any suggestions?
Yeah, I have one that I've thought was helpful. So I've done dream boards. So with my older students, I'll try, if they want to be if their dream is to be a doctor or a nurse or a teacher or something like that, they would make this big dream board, and then we would I would try to like break that down for them, like, okay, like if our big long-term goal is like, you want to go to school to be a nurse, like what are some of the little things that we need to do to get you there? Like how do we need to, what kind of GPA do we need to have? Like how do we need to work in the classroom, and what do we need to go, like what do we need to do to get you to that point? Or even like some of the little ones, like I want to be a princess. Like, okay, like what are some behaviors that princesses have? Like how do we need to, incorporate that in the classroom and stuff too? So just kind of like making it like very person centered, as far as like they get to pick what their big goals is, and then trying to see if we can like incorporate that into the school as well. Like these are the things that we need to do.
I love that idea. I love the way that you, I guess, scaffolded or show, yes, that these are some little tiny steps that we have to take to meet that large goal. That's a really cool idea. I like that. Thank you. Now let's go on to persevering. So if we look at persevering, we're looking at, students be able to anticipate the barriers to achieve a goal, and then identify ways to overcome those barriers, and persevere by expending additional effort, extending timeframes, identifying alternative paths to goal achievement, and seeking help from others. So one of the main things that I think we need to do as far as teaching strategies is define perseverance. What does it mean to persevere? What does it mean to continue working when you have barriers or have difficulties? What does that look like? What are some things that people in history have persevered? So create class projects that require effort and encourage completion. And these class projects, like I said, could be something in the classroom, or it could be something for the school as a whole as well. And then routinely notice and discuss when students are being perseverant, and help students think through and suggest alternatives when they encounter challenges. Encourage students to write in journals, and then offer to help when needed. Just kind of offer them help, offer them guidance, but don't do the stuff for them. Just keep working and keep pushing them to do their best and keep moving forward. Next, we'll be looking at social awareness. Competency in social awareness domain involves the ability to take the perspective of and have respect for those with different backgrounds or cultures, and to empathize and feel compassion. Also involves understanding social norms for behavior and recognizing family, school, and community resources and supports. And I think some of the key things about, as far as social awareness, is appreciating diversity and having respect and showing respect for others. So social awareness, as far as perspective and empathizing, students will be able to put themselves in another shoes, see the other person's point of view, and understand how their thoughts and feelings and why they might feel that way. And you should be able to accurately interpret situations, cues that indicate how others feel. So some teaching strategies discuss the subtle clues in the environment, and determine on what kinds of behaviors to have and what are appropriate. Should also talk about how others feel in different situations, and provide students opportunities to share in small groups how they feel in different situations. So social awareness, as far as appreciating diversity, these are the things that some of the students are doing. These are just some teaching strategies. Some other teaching strategies that you may look at is have students share different cultural perspectives on different situations. Use cooperative learning and project-based learning strategies to build diverse working groups. And then ask questions in different situations to make the point that we are all similar and we are all different. So just because you have a different viewpoint and different ideal don't mean we can't work together. So as far as respecting others, students will be able to believe others deserve to be treated with kindness, be concerned about the impact they have on others, value feelings and opinions of others, show respect, be motivated, be helpful to others in their peer group and family, and also in the school and the community, accept direction from authority. So some teaching strategies that we could use is, of course, teaching lessons on respect. You've got to define the word respect, and then teach lessons on what respect is and what it would look like in your classroom, and how you can model that behavior and role play situations where you show respect. Give feedback to students when they're respectful. Ask routine questions throughout the day to draw attention to how students' behavior is affecting those around them. So when we're looking at social awareness, we're also looking at our students being able to persevere in addressing challenges they may face, recognize their social expectations about acceptable behaviors, understand what these expectations are, and recognize and share a school norm of treating others the way you'd want to be treated. And so some teaching strategies for persevering. So lead a discussion on implicit rules, how to act in different contexts, during different settings, different situations. A model and routinely promote a school norm of treating others the way you want to be treated. We've already talked about that briefly. And have students work with younger students and discuss how they modeled respect with the younger student. Social awareness also involves recognizing community resources. So we have formal and informal resources in a community. And so some formal resources in a community would be your law enforcement, could be your first responders. Resources in a community could be your local health departments, your local mental health providers. So those would be formal resources in a community where our students and their families could go for help if they need that. Some informal resources, personal contacts that our students have, friends in the community, pastor, your churches, teachers could be an informal resource. So think about those and recognize those resources that are out there. So some strategies to use, you can maybe possibly do a bulletin board with pictures of resources there. And then also lead discussions about who students can reach out to when they need help or advice. Sometimes our students don't know who they can go to for help, don't know where to turn to. So provide them with that information. All right, so let's look at relationship skills. Relationship skills, as far as competency and relationship skills, it involves communicating clearly, listening actively, cooperating, resisting inappropriate social pressure, negotiating conflict constructively, and seeking help when needed. Relationship skills provide individuals with the tools they need to establish and maintain healthy and rewarding relationships and to act in accordance with social norms. So relationship skills involves communications, involves social engagement, and working as a team, teamwork. It also shows leadership in groups and stands up for the rights of others. So students will be able to, and this is some of the things that they should be able to do if they are competent in relationship skills. So we're looking at healthy and rewarding relationships. Sometimes our students have a difficult time, the younger ones and our students with intellectual disabilities, with initiating contact with others, how to enter a conversation and how to leave a conversation and how to let other folks talk and not talk over them, not interrupt them. I think that's a difficult for our students. And then these are some teaching strategies. And some other teaching strategies is, of course, you always want to give authentic feedback when you see students waiting their turn. Praise them. I saw you waited saw the way you waited your turn. I know you were excited, but you kept your hands to yourself. You did a great job. And when you're providing our students with that feedback, make sure it is behavior specific feedback instead of just saying, oh yeah, you did a good job. Tell them exactly what it is that you're praising them for and what you thought they did a really good job at doing. And then use collaborative work groups again to reinforce the importance of working together. And then have students evaluate how well they work together in a group. And then you could have, they could journal how well they worked on the project. You could have them talk to their partners. You could have a class discussion about, this was the community service project that we developed. We worked as a team. Okay, so let's look at what was successful. Let's look at some things that we need to improve upon. And then what are some things that we learned from this project that we could carry forward? Give students praise when they show respect for boundaries, and then model good boundaries yourself. Praise students for resolving conflicts peacefully. Have a conflict resolution protocol that you use in your school or in your classroom. Give students opportunities to practice social skills in small groups and project-based learning activities. Again, like I said, social emotional learning and social skills are not the same, although the social skills that we teach your kids play into developing the competencies that our students need in their social emotional learning. I think one of the main ones is teaching students how to communicate with each other, and just how to provide and accept feedback from their peers, and then how to work together in a group. Right. Relationship skills also involves communicating clearly. And sometimes our nonverbal communication says a lot more than what we say with words. You know, our body language, our gestures, those things provide a lot of information to folks as we're communicating. And sometimes our kiddos don't pick up on those nonverbal skills that we use to express ourselves. And so they have a difficult time, as I say, reading the room and reading facial expressions, gestures, and things like that. So we need to teach them and improve upon those nonverbal skills as well as our verbal skills. Use I statements instead of you statements. I understand you're upset. What can we do to make this a better situation? Listen reflectively and actively. Another thing with communicating, when you're communicating and you're listening, you use attending and attuning. Attending means that you're paying attention to what is being said, the words, the verbal ways that they're expressing themselves. Attuning means that you are tuning into what is being said. You're reading the emotions, you're reading the nonverbal. A lot of times I get caught up in attending. I listen to the words, but I don't pay close enough attention to how things are being said. And so a lot of times I just respond to what is being said and not the manner in which it was said. And when you use those tuning skills, you can, it's like the emotions that are involved. And then it also looks at writing coherently. So just communicate clearly and ways to build those relationship skills.
One of the things that we do is a family tree with our students, where we ask the families and the children to bring in like a picture of their family, so that kind of comforting to them that they're able to go over and talk about their family, see their family in the classroom, and also like a show and tell where they're able to bring something and talk about maybe something they did through the summer or something they really enjoy. Just gives them the opportunity to speak up and talk about themselves.
I love those ideas. So when we're looking at relationship skills, we're also looking at resisting social pressure. And so some teaching strategies are being assertive and not aggressive. You know, we can get our point across. We can be assertive in our communication. We can be assertive in the language that we use without being aggressive, and still be respectful when we're talking with others. Model assertive behavior, like I said, assertive, not aggressive, and give students authentic praise for being assertive. As far as negotiating conflict constructively, students be able to follow a systematic approach to conflict resolution. And that's one of those things that we were talking about. Maybe you have a protocol that you set up in your school or your classroom. And then here's some teaching strategies for negotiating conflict constructively. One of the ones is the teach conflict resolution, role plays and modeling, and then give students support as needed when they're working out a conflict, and then provide them with praise and acknowledge them when they are negotiating conflict constructively and when they're working together as a team, and when they're working through difficult situations together to come to an agreement on what's going to be a beneficial outcome for all parties. Also, part of relationship skills is seeking and offering help. So how do our students ask for and receive help from others? And how do we offer help to others needing assistance? Like I said, you want to provide them with those baby steps into what I can do to help you, not just jump in and do something for them when they find it difficult. So one of the things that we can do with the older kids is organize service learning strategies within the school. and have students collaborate on how to organize and manage different school projects or different service projects in the school. And you could also do service learning projects in the community as well. Model ways, again, and provide that authentic feedback. And it should be, again, like I said, a positive and real feedback. So responsible decision making. Competency in this domain requires the ability to consider ethical standards, safety concerns, and make accurate behavioral assessments, to make realistic evaluations of the consequences of various actions, and to take the health and well-being of self and others into consideration. Responsible decision-making requires the knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to make constructive choices about personal behavior and social interactions across diverse settings. Look like demonstrating curiosity and open-mindedness, learning how to make a reasoned judgment after analyzing information, data, and facts, recognizing critical thinking skills, evaluating personal, interpersonal, community, and institutional impacts, to name a few. So students, these are the things that a student should be able to do. Recognize, understand obligations, identify, develop their values to promote honesty, reliability, and accountability, consider ethical standards, and make effective decisions and choices. So some strategies that you could use is give students some problem scenarios and ask them to work in groups or pairs to decide what they would decide to do. What kind of decision would they make? For example, a friend asks you to let them copy your homework. Then you could ask your kids, what would you do? Define responsibility in related terms such as ethical, safe, values, and honesty. And you, again, going back, we have to have that vocabulary. You have to have that terminology in order for students to describe what's going on with them. So you have to teach that vocabulary. And so read current events and discuss if decisions made are ethical and evaluate against a clearly defined ethical criteria. So you may create and agree to and help students understand logical consequences and discussing them frequently and whenever appropriate. So some quick takeaways as we kind of wrap up. As far as our 5 competencies, SEL is the process of developing and using social and emotional skills. It's the skill set we use to cope with feelings, set goals, make decisions, and to get along with and feel empathy for others. As far as CASEL is collaborative for academic, social, and emotional learning. Those 5 core competencies are self-awareness, which looks like identifying emotions, recognizing strengths and needs, and developing a growth mindset. Self-management, managing emotions, controlling impulses, and setting goals. Social awareness is seeing things from other people's perspective, showing empathy and appreciating diversity. And relationship skills as communication, cooperation, and conflict resolution. Responsible decision making includes thinking about the consequences of personal behaviors and how they impact the environment, the community, the group that you're in. So some quick, as far as looks like, and teaching activities for self-awareness. We've already talked about what that looks like and what students be able to do, and some of the teaching strategies that our teachers can use. Some other teaching activities could be mindfulness and meditation. Also the belly breathing, counting to 10, just ways that they can help calm themselves and help self-regulation. Also, someone else mentioned journaling, do reflective writings, and then creating emotional vocabulary list with their students and their kiddos. Self-management, this is what it looks like. And then some teaching activities that we could use as grounding techniques. Look at party games as well. And such party games as, Simon Says, musical chairs. There's different types of party games that you can use to help teach the students self-management skills and self-regulation skills. And then SMART goal challenge. And then also, like I said, use the think process. If we look at social awareness, we're looking at seeing things from other people's perspectives, showing empathy and appreciating diversity. And some of the things that we talked about using was the classroom service projects, listening circles, and you can do diversity story time as well. And looking at relationship skills involved communication, cooperation, and conflict resolution. Some activities is there's a make new friends bingo, and you could do team puzzle games. And then the last one that we talked a little bit about was responsible decision making, which includes thinking about the consequences of personal behaviors. And then some teaching activities, you could have a student contract or even a class contract. And then a student council, you could do a class student council, or if you have a conflict or a disagreement or whatever, you could take that before the student council and have your students work together to resolve those conflicts. And then what would you do activities? That's quick, brief. Any comments or questions?
I just like, I mean, I like to stop, calm down, identify the problem. I think sometimes as adults, we forget that ultimately they are kids
Mhm.
and they struggle, and we have to get on their level because they're not always confident in talking to us.
Yes, that's a good point. And then, like I said, going back to modeling the behavior, modeling how to talk about problems, how to talk about what's bothering you, and that it's all right that I am a resource that you can come to when you have something that you need to talk about, and also reassure them that you'll keep it confidential unless, of course, it's something where they're going to hurt themselves or someone else. Then you have to report that information. But if it's, if it's something that you can keep in confidence, please keep that information confidential, because once you break that trust, it takes a long time to develop that trust with the students. And once you break that trust, man, it's going to be difficult to get that back. So if they trust in you enough to share some information with you, keep that in confidence and let them know that, what they say to you is just going to be you. I'd like to thank you. My email information is doug.smith@hazard.kyschools.us or doug.smith@theholler.org.